Hey guys, so today we're going to finish talking about West Africa. Please be patient with me as these are not names that I say every day, and I'll pronounce them in my head when I read about them, and then when I say it out loud it sounds dumb. So just be patient with me as I struggle through some of these pronunciations. We're going to talk about several smaller countries like Sierra Leone, Guinea, Equatorial Guinea. We're talking about Mali. That was a larger one. We talked a little bit about about that place. Mali, the kingdom, whenever we talked about Mansa Musa, and he was the king that gave all the gold away. And the people there don't even say his name now. It's like a forbidden thing. So we touched on that just a little bit. We'll talk about Cape Verde. We'll talk about Liberia and some other places that I'm probably going to mess up the pronunciation. So just be patient with me and please be kind about that. You'll have your Google Classroom assignment to follow. It's called West Africa Part 2 assignment. Just submit that on Google Classroom. It'll come to me and I can grade it. If you need any help throughout the week, email me, drop a comment on the section on the Google Classroom for comments, but please make it something useful and productive and not just something for us all to read and giggle at because I don't want to turn off the classroom comment section, but I've had to do that in years past. So please don't be one of the people who make me have to do that because then it'll just be a ton of emails between people and we'll all be confused. And then if you need an additional Zoom session, reach out to me and let me know that. I can set up a Zoom session anytime if you need it in the afternoon. If your parents want to jump on and say, hey, not really sure what's going on, what's my kid supposed to be doing, let me know. We can make that happen. And anything else that you guys need, reach out to your teachers. We are here for you guys still. It looks different, it feels different. It's weird maybe a little bit with the online learning, but it doesn't feel like a classroom setting, but we are still here to help you guys however we can. So be sure to reach out to us, okay?
As the westernmost Sahel country, Mauritania borders the Atlantic Ocean. The waters off the coast are a rich fishing ground. Fishing ships from other countries have overfished these waters. As a result, fewer people can make a living from the sea than in the past. Mauritania's first port suitable for large ships opened in 1986 near the capital, Nouakchott. Mali is a landlocked nation, and the people there have to deal with poor soil and frequent droughts. They're among the economically poorest countries in the world. Mali is a very large country, nearly twice the size of Texas, yet more than 65% of Mali's land area is desert or semi-desert. Most of its 11 million people live along the Niger River. About 80% farm or herd livestock for a living. The main cash crop is cotton. Mali hopes to become a major exporter of gold in the future. Burkina Faso is a landlocked nation of 11.6 million people. Most are subsistence farmers who grow grains. Thousands of people migrate from Burkina Faso every year in search of work. Most travel to nearby Ghana and Côte d'Ivoire. Chad is another landlocked nation with a struggling economy. It suffers from their remote location and from a lack of good transportation. Most of the people live by farming or herding. Chad has petroleum deposits, but it lacks the money needed to develop oil fields and to build pipelines. A rebellion in the north of Chad has delayed economic improvements. In addition to Nigeria and the Sahel countries, West Africa includes 11 coastal countries. Cape Verde is a group of islands in the Atlantic Ocean. The other countries stretch along the Gulf of Guinea in the Atlantic coast. Sandy beaches, thick mangrove swamps, and rainforests cover the shores of West Africa's coastal countries. Highland areas with grasses and trees lie inland. Senegal, Gambia, Volta, and Niger rivers flow from these highlands to the coast. Rapids in shallow waters prevent large ships from traveling farther inland. Because they border the ocean, the coastal countries receive plenty of rainfall. Warmer currents in the Gulf of Guinea create a moist, tropical rainforest climate in most of the coastal lowlands year-round. The highland areas have a tropical savanna climate with dry and wet seasons. Some areas have drier steppe and desert climates. Most people in the region are subsistence farmers. They grow yams, corn, rice, cassava, and other foods for their families. Coffee, rubber, cocoa, Palm oil and cola nuts are cash crops grown on plantations. Cola nuts help give colas their special flavor. Despite these rich agricultural resources, coastal West African countries import more in industrial goods than they export in natural products. Agricultural products often rise and fall in price suddenly, and their value is not equal to finished goods. To meet their country's needs, governments have to borrow money from other countries or international organizations. In early times, the powerful and wealthy kingdoms of Ashanti and Abomey ruled West Africa's coastal regions. These kingdoms were centers of trade, learning, and the arts. From the late 1400s to the early 1800s, Europeans set up trading posts along the West African coast. From these posts, they traded with Africans for gold, ivory, and other goods that people in Europe wanted. The Europeans also enslaved and forced millions of Africans to migrate to the Americas to work on plantations and in mines. This trade in human beings, which also took place among African countries, was a disaster for West Africa. The removal of so many young and skilled people devastated West African families, villages, and economies. The French, British, and Portuguese eventually divided up the coastal region and set up colonies to obtain the region's rich resources. In 1957, Ghana became the first country in West Africa to become independent. By the late 1970s, no West African country was under European rule. People in coastal West Africa cherish family ties. Some practice traditional African religions, whereas others are Christians or Muslims. Local African languages are spoken in everyday conversation, but languages such as French, English, and Portuguese are used in business or government. Cities in coastal West Africa are modern and growing. If you were to visit cities such as Ghana's capital city, Accra, or Côte d'Ivoire's capital city, Abidjan, you would find busy downtown areas with modern government and office buildings. You would also see some people dressed in Western-style business clothes and others in traditional African clothing. Most of the people in Gambia, Senegal, and Guinea work in agriculture. Guinea is also rich in bauxite and diamonds. Bauxite is a mineral used to make aluminum. Guinea has about 25% of the world's reserves of bauxite. Senegal is an important source of phosphate. Phosphate is a mineral salt that has phosphorus, which is used in fertilizers. Senegal has more people than the other two countries. It has 9.2 million. About 42% live in cities. Cape Verde was a Portuguese colony until it won its independence in 1975. It's made up of 15 volcanic islands about 370 miles offshore in the Atlantic Ocean. Poor soil and low rainfall make the Cape Verde Islands unsuitable for farming. Most of the people here work in service industries related to trade, government, and transportation. The island's 400,000 people must import about 90% of their food. Most of the 1.2 million people in Guinea-Bissau make their living by farming or fishing. Rice, the major crop, is also the basic food item. Guinea-Bissau is one of the world's top producers of cashews. There is a mix of African and Portuguese influences in the language and cultures of the two countries. Liberia is the only West African nation that was never a colony. African Americans freed from slavery founded Liberia in 1822. Monrovia, Liberia's capital, was named for James Monroe, the President of the United States while Liberia was founded. From 1989 to 1996, a civil war caused many lives and destroyed much of the country's economy. Sierra Leone was also founded as a home for people freed from slavery. The British ruled Sierra Leone from 1787 until 1961. Most of the land is used for farming, but the country also has mineral resources, especially diamonds. Civil war has destroyed recent economic development. Sierra Leone's population now is about 5.3 million people. Côte d'Ivoire is a French name that means Ivory Coast. From the late 1400s to the early 1900s, a trade in elephant ivory tusks in Côte d'Ivoire brought profits to European traders. Today, the ivory trade is illegal and the country protects its elephants. Côte d'Ivoire was a French colony before winning its independence in 1960. It's a top producer of the cacao beans and a major producer of coffee and palm oil. The Port of Abidjan is the largest urban area and economic center. This busy city has towering office buildings and wide avenues. Abidjan is the official seat of government. Ghana produces the cacao beans for export. Gold and timber are major sources of income. The country is rich in natural resources, but many people are subsistence farmers. Ghana won its independence from the British in 1957. For a long time, dictators or military leaders ruled the country. Unwise government decisions slowed Ghana's economic growth and brought hardships to its people. In the 1990s, Ghana moved toward democracy. Ghana's people belong to about 100 ethnic groups. The Ashanti and the Fanti are the largest. Many groups still keep their local king, but these rulers have no political power. The people respect the ceremonial rulers and look to them to keep traditions alive. About 35% of Ghana's people live in the cities. Accra on the coast is the capital and largest city. A giant dam on the Volta River provides hydroelectric power to urban areas, and the dam also has created Lake Volta, the world's largest artificial lake.